This is Deborah Kitko, genealogy librarian with the Wayne County Public Library. We are continuing our series about cemetery records for this month. I do want to talk about now last week we talked about the Worcester Cemetery. This week we're going to talk about the cemeteries in the outlying areas and a couple other publications we do have in our department, or actually compilations of information. We do have what we call lateral files in our department, which means that these are loose leaf papers, and they are filed in archival safe envelopes. And a lot of times we have some additional information on cemeteries within those lateral files. These are usually newspaper clippings. You may find some earlier editions of the burials there. So that may be worth your time to take a look at. The other thing we have, this is a notebook. I mentioned earlier on that in 2003, the Ohio Genealogical Society had started a statewide project to try and record all the lost and forgotten cemeteries and all the known cemeteries. At that time, there were several of us here in Wayne County that were assisting with that project. And here at the library, we actually started to compile a book on the different newspaper clippings we had on various cemeteries. So this is just a catch-all notebook. I have it organized by township here. So if you have someone that's buried in like Baughman Township, I do have a spreadsheet here of some of the cemeteries known. This is a little bit outdated now. It needs to be updated. And then we also have, here's a newspaper clipping. This is actually from the Courier Crescent, 1947. Facts about cemetery boards, work recited by Howard T. Pontius. And here's the Patton Family Cemetery. This is some information about some of the land transactions involved in that property. Sometimes you may find an overall picture here as well. Here is another article about the cemetery cared for as tribute to a former caretaker. And this one was written by Darla Landers there at the Daily Record. And this is up, I think, Marshallville area. That's where this one would be at. So this is just a mishmash of newspaper articles that we have found. It's not complete by any means. There's been some controversy as well here in Wayne County, as well as a lot of other places. We have suffered the loss of many of our cemeteries for various reasons. It could be due to vandalism. It could be the weathering. It could be that they were just not taken care of for a number of years. It could be, unfortunately, some individuals just don't have the respect of the cemeteries and they prefer to take that land to farm on. We've actually had some of that happen. We've had, in some places, cemeteries have disappeared because the powers that be thought it was like an eyesore. And so they sort of got rid of the cemeteries that way. So there's a lot of reasons why a lot of cemeteries do not exist today that once did exist. It just happens. Like I said, it's just not here locally. It is probably nationwide where you do have a lot of cemeteries that are lost for various reasons. In 1970s, the Genealogical section of the Wayne County Historical Society, this is a time period when they're actually connected together as one group. They are now two separate entities. But they decided they were going to take on a project to visit all the cemeteries and do a transcription of what was included on the tombstones. Now, I've mentioned to you earlier that a lot of times the only record we have would be what's based on the tombstone inscriptions. Volunteers do not always go to the township. They do not always go to the cemetery office. They may not go to the village city hall to get some other additional information. This is a great work actually for the time period, and it is organized by township. And on the front page of each township, you do have a listing of the names of the cemeteries. And up here, there's also a map. And once again, similar to the other location guide, they've actually numbered, like number one, here's number one here on the map. So you can actually put it in perspective where you know where to go to try to find it. Now, this was done before computer age and before GPS, but this is still a great source. And this source has been used for projects that's happened later since this was taken place. One of the drawbacks of this book, well, it's a good and a bad thing. Most of the people are listed in alphabetical order, which makes it really easy to try to find your family within this burial record. The downside is that a lot of times you're going to miss the whole context because a lot of times family members were actually buried near each other. And so you can find family connections by actually physically locating or physically going to the cemetery and see who is near each other. But this is just a basic book. It just gives you the name of the individual. It gives you their birth date if known. It gives you their death date. Sometimes it gives you the age. Sometimes you'll see different abbreviations such as W/O, which means wife of. You see S/O, that's son of. D/O would be daughter of. H/O is like husband of. And some other information like that. There are a couple townships within here, such as in Congress Township, that they actually have them buried by section and by row, not in alphabetical order. So even within this book, there's several different ways how each cemetery may be divided. In Paint Township, for example, there's actually a section that includes some abstracts of death records, Mount Eaton death records, and it gives you an example there. And we do have these records here in our department. And it gives you a separate index. And you're going to see this book, it's been bound in different colors, so just don't go based on the color. This happens to be a blue one. We've also had one that's colored in a burgundy. We've also had one bound in a green color. And sometimes there's different additions to each version, so not all of the same Wayne County burial records matches with each other. We do have a supplement to go with this, which is a comprehensive index. And in some of the books, it's as part of the book. This one has the index as a separate notebook. But this is some supplement stuff at the back of this book. And here is like the Revolutionary War soldiers of Wayne County that's buried. You also have the soldiers of the War of 1812. Veterans of you don't have the Civil War in here. They just goes through the War of 1812. And then you also have an addenda. So these are some of the corrections that they found through the years. And so they have some extra little bonuses here that you may want to look at. So this is looking at this record, this source, looking at the source at a later date. There are some discrepancies in here. There are some errors in here. But for the time, the volunteers did a terrific job in terms of compiling everything into one book, all the known individuals. And I wish that a lot of other counties that I do research in would have a very similar guide. So this is just, this book does not necessarily include the Amish cemeteries in Wayne County. Some of them may be included. Some of the little family plots may be included. We have just discovered that there's quite a few cemeteries that were not included in this book that we have found at a later date. Sherwood Memorial Gardens is not in this book either. Now, Sherwood Memorial is on the north side of town, and they do have an office, and they do have interment records. I had worked on a project years ago in connection with Sherwood Memorial, and I have some of those records on a database here in our department, so you'd have to actually contact me to take a look at that, or contact the Sherwood Memorial Gardens Cemetery and see what you may find if you know your loved one's buried there. So this, once again, we've covered the Worcester Cemetery. This is the rural area. And my next segment, I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Wayne County Cemetery Preservation Society and what efforts they have done to enhance our department's collection. So once again, if you have any questions, feel free to contact our department by phone, 330-262-0916, or you may send us an email at genealogy@wcpl.info. Thank you.